Hey, what's up, guys? It's a Art Book Addiction here, and we're here with a new artist journey video. So today we're going to be talking about the importance of drawing from life. Okay, so drawing from life, obviously means drawing with what's ever in front of you. Okay, and that you see it physically in real life. Okay, in today's modern world, we have things like photos. We have all these digital things that we could look at. A lot of people look at other drawings, right? Which I say is a no. Don't draw from other drawings, okay? Um, and the importance of drawing from life, it comes from the ability to train your eye, okay? Train your eye and to train your mind to be able to compose things on the fly without the need for a frame, okay? Like when I say a frame, I mean like when you have a photo, you've already framed it yourself, okay? You've already created the composition within the photo, okay? But when you're drawing from real life, you have to find the angle, create the composition, and look through your eyes and use your mind to create an image, okay? And that's something that the old masters did. That's something that we have to do, and that's something that can really, really benefit you and your practice. Okay, so that's what we'll be talking about today. But before we start, please hit that like, hit that subscribe, check out my prints and Patreon. If you want to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member, and join the Discord. Okay, with that, let's get into it. So, drawing from life. Okay, whether it be a still life, whether it be a live model, an environment, you know, these things really help train your eye, okay? And that's the important part. And another thing is that when you take a photo, the colors are not exactly the same as when you see it with your eye, okay? The eye sees things differently than a camera lens. When you see with your eye, when you look at far distances, and you could test this yourself. When you look at like a far distance, okay, or like a decently far distance, things will appear to be much closer to you than if you take a picture of it. Okay, like this is just unknown phenomena, right? Where, and it's not a phenomena. It's just the mechanics of a camera, right? Where you take a camera, okay, and you're like, oh, I see like a bird. It's like a smaller bird, okay, and you're like, whoa, it's like right there. I could see all its details, and it's not that far away. But you take your camera out, and it's like it goes from like this big to like this tiny little thing, right? So there are definite benefits to drawing from life, okay? All the best artists take the time to draw from life because you need to have that skill, you need to have that eye, and you need to have that ability to just look at something, put it to paper, okay? Right? All your favorite artists, I'm sure, even if they're digital artists, take the time to somewhere along the line draw something from life, okay? It's really important to be able to look at things, draw it, okay? That will define you as an artist, okay? A lot of times people can't do that, okay? I've seen artists who can't do that, you know what I mean? They're like, I'm like, here, here's a tool, here's a thing right in front of you, draw it, okay? If you can't do that, then you have a huge gap in your skill set, okay? I'm sorry, but that is a huge gap, okay? And once you've done it a couple times, once you've realized the importance of drawing from life, you'll realize that, like, oh shit, I should have been doing this the entire time. I should have been doing this more often, right? And the thing is, like, when it comes to things like figure, like having a live model, that's hard. You have to pay for that. Maybe your school doesn't provide that. I don't know if you're an art student, right? But if you're an art student, that is the time. Like, for those who are art students, you have a lot of time in front of a model, okay? And that time is precious, and you need to be using it, okay? And like, when you're in art school, you'll be seeing live models all the time. So you just gotta, put in the time, draw those models, keep doing it. You know what I mean? I don't know if all of your schools, I don't know if everyone has the access to the models, right? But if you do have access, use it, okay? Right? It's so important because, like, after you're out of school, you're not going to see live models that often, right? Like you could see it like, with a workshop here and there, right? And it's going to cost an assload of money, right? But having a regular access to a model is awesome, okay? And when you lose it, you realize how awesome it was, because it's not something that's very common, you know what I mean, right? However, what we do have access to at all times are objects and places, okay? Not always, places not always, right? But like being able to draw something that's just right in front of you, right? And you have models in the form of people that you know, right? But how long they could pose, that's really up to them, you know what I mean? It's that varies in quality, right? But at the end of the day, objects, they don't move, okay? Environments, they move, but they're generally, they could generally be still, you know what I mean, right? As long as it's not like a windy day or some shit, right? And that's what we're getting into, things like plein air, okay, right? Plein air, if you guys don't know, is to, take whatever drawing stuff that you have, right? Usually it's in the context of painting, right? Plein air is usually a painting term because, it means painting in plein air. It means painting on the spot. You have your thing in front of you, you have like the real environment, and then you paint it right there on the spot, okay? And it's a fantastic practice, okay? It will level up your speed, okay? It will level up your eye. It will level up your ability to compose things on the fly, right? And it will make you much faster, okay? Because you have to do all these things, and you have to do it like within like a usually a 3-hour like block, okay? Right? When you're in the studio, or when you're in front of the tablet or whatever, you could just put however much time you want, and then you move on, right? And then you come back, you could do it, you could diddle, and then like, oh, I gotta go do a thing, and then you come back, I could do that. When you do plein air, you can't do that. Plein air is a completely focused, session of painting, okay? And you can do this with like, you can do this with ink, you do this with line, or not line, with graphite, you know what I mean? But like, when it comes to plein air, the term plein air is usually for painting, you know what I mean? So just like, when I say plein air, like think of painting, right? But like know that there are options for you to do things. Like you could do it in watercolor, you know what I mean? But live drawing, okay, in an environment, okay, that's the thing that I do the most, right? When it comes to live drawing, I tend to do plein air the most, right? Because I don't want to drawing people, like having a live model, like you have to pay for that shit, you know what I mean? Or having a live model is difficult to find, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Sorry about that. And being able to find an environment, and I like to draw a landscape, you know what I mean? So that's just natural for me. But being able to draw a landscape right in front of you has its advantages, right? You see things closer, you see things with better detail. There's more depth, and the colors are different than when you take it on camera, okay? When you see, like especially when you're looking at things that have like a lot of light in it, you know what I mean, right? Like, for example, whenever you try to do something at night, when you take a photo at night, okay, it never looks right. It never looks the same, okay? Or let's say like you try to take a picture of the moon, okay? Like for us, the moon is going to be like this like pretty big thing that you can see all the details of the moon, right? Try to take a picture, it's just a tiny little thing, and it's creating way too much light, so it overexposes the camera, right? That's a huge thing. So like night scenes, I think actually benefit the most from plein air, right? That being said, you'll probably have to draw in a semi-lit environment, or you have to have a thing to project light onto your canvas, right? But it's worth it, okay guys, it's worth it. And there's something really fun about going to a place, picking up the thing, and drawing on the spot. Okay, sitting there for a couple hours, drawing, and it's intense. Okay, it is not a oh, this is I mean, it is calm. It's calm in the environment. It's calm depending on the environment. It's a calming thing, but it's also very intense. Okay, because you like, I have this much time. I have to really focus. I have to lock in, and I have to draw this thing. But it's cool because but it also feels easy because usually you're drawing in a beautiful environment. You're drawing something where you don't have to be that stressed out. Okay, and another benefit is that people get to see you drawing. Okay, you get to be in a place where people get to see you draw. You get to do your thing. And this may be a benefit or this may be detrimental depending on you as a person, right? But you'll have people who come up to you and they'll be like, oh my god, like, look, this is such a nice drawing, and you're like, oh, thank you. And it's nice to have your work be validated. Okay, whether it's like, because it's like random people, it's not going to be like that hurtful because it's just some random guy. Like it won't like obviously usually they're not going to say anything negative, you know what I mean, right? But usually they'll say something positive. And so if it's like a random person saying something nice, it usually feels like yeah, like, thank you, you know what I mean? Like it's nothing, there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes you'll gather a crowd behind you, you know what I mean, as if you're like some performer, right? Depending on your setup, you know what I mean. And you could choose to ignore them, usually, which is usually the case, or you can engage with them. They can ask you some questions, you know what I mean. And so it's a fun way to kind of like show off your work while also working and like not having to like try to sell something to someone, you know what I mean, right? So you're not in that sales mode. You get what I'm saying? So take the time, go out there, do a little bit of plein air, right? If you don't want to do that, if you're uncomfortable with that, you can work in your backyard. Okay, you go somewhere that's like there's nobody. You know what I mean? Maybe like a couple people here and there, but it's mostly just you. That's also perfectly viable solution, right? The whole point is that you get out there and you look at a thing, you draw it. Okay, that could be animals too, right? The problem with animals is that they move a lot. Okay, so if you were to do that, I recommend to you that you use a faster medium like ink. Okay, when I was doing animal drawings in real life, right? I had this class called Animal Anatomy, and what they would do a lot is they would drive you to places, and there would be animals there, and you could draw them, but they're moving. They're moving, like you can't stop them. You know what I mean, right? And so what you need is a fast medium like ink. Okay, ink really fast. You can't second guess yourself, and it's permanent. Okay, so sometimes you gotta, and like you get to paint the movement of the thing, right? That's another benefit of doing drawing in real life. You get to see the movement of things, right? Whereas in you're in photo, it's still, it's always stuck. It's like it's static, right? But if you're drawing something in real life, you get to see the movement. You get to capture that movement, right? And photos aren't very good at that. You know what I mean? But in real life, you get like, oh, you see this thing flowing. You see a horse running. You can see it moving. You're like, okay, I can see the movement of the hair. I want to capture that, right? And being able to draw animals in real life, it's just fun. It's just a fun thing to do, right? And it can really augment the way you look at art, right? Because usually you're just in the studio and you're just grinding and you're just doing the thing and you're stuck at the computer, right? And now you're in the opposite, where you're outside. There are things happening that are out of your control, right? And the thing that you could bring into control and into order is your artwork, is your drawing, okay? And so it's just a really fun practice, okay? So like I don't want to intimidate you guys and say like this is something you have to do if you want to get better, blah, blah, blah. It's like this is a fun thing that you could do that will improve you, okay? May change up where you're drawing, you know what I mean? And like for me personally, right, like I recently started doing a little bit more plein air stuff, and it made me go like, man, I should do this more often, right? I should start like going to places, finding a spot, doing a little drawing, okay, and then get out of there, right? And so what you'll need for that is to create a portable kit, okay, right? Um, which is, easier and harder depending on what your medium is, right? If you're doing oil, that's, I think, going to be the most materials that you'll require, right? If you're doing pencil with a sketchbook, easy, okay, easy as pie, right? Watercolor, a little bit easier. You could use a smaller kit, right? Which is what I use, right? And I do have a oil painting kit. You know what I mean? It's just a lot bigger. You have to have a lot more stuff, right? But there are benefits and cons. You know what I mean, right? But make a little portable kit for yourself, right? If you're just starting out, just maybe a pencil, piece, and a sketchbook, right? A little sketchbook. Work small, okay? Work small, right? If you're doing plein air, you got to do small because otherwise it's gonna take too long, okay? If you want to do something bigger, maybe save that, what you could do is, and this is something that the old masters used to do, is they would do a plein air, right? A small scale plein air, right? Maybe just to get the color of the lighting down, just to get to understand what's going on in the space, right? You take that and then you know you use that as a composition, and you could take a photo, right? I guess the old masters didn't really do that, but you could take a photo and then bring it home, and then either finish that small one, okay, or you could do a bigger one using your small one as a reference. You know what I mean? Like as a color reference, as a lighting reference. You know what I mean? You can get a lot done using this method, right? Because then now that you've already broken down the colors, you already understand what you're going to be painting. Right now, you just got to do it big, and you got to add a little bit of detail, right? Which is pretty easy, right? So as you can see, there are a lot of ways to approach doing live drawing, okay? Whether it be plein air, drawing for a live model, doing a still life, right? That's another thing, still lives, okay? Setting up a little composition of objects in front of you, right? It is a classic study, okay? It is a classic means to get better at drawing, okay? Getting better at looking at something, right? Because unlike in an environment, okay, where you have to do things really fast and you have to kind of be a little bit lower detail, right, depending on your medium. With still life, it's the exact opposite, where you're really focused on the material things, how things look, making it look exactly correct. You know what I mean? Or not exactly correct, but enough to capture the object in its essence, right? And usually they have things of varying material. There's fabric, fruit, okay, glass, okay, a weird object usually, right? And you could create little narratives with it. You know what I mean? Where you have a certain arrangement of objects, and they kind of mean something. You know what I mean? So being able to do that, okay, and you could do this you could do this digitally as well, right? But the whole point is that there's something in front of you, okay, that you have something that you have the intent of drawing, and there is no frame, okay, there is no frame around you, right? And you're using your eye and you're using your mind to look at something and draw it, okay, right? It's such a simple concept, but in execution it is way more complicated than you would think, okay? And I know, like I said, in the modern age, people don't really do this because it's inconvenient. A photo is so much more convenient, okay, right? But there is something lost in the process, okay? And you know what? I'm not gonna say that, I draw from photo all the time. Most of my paintings are from photo, so I'm not gonna roast it or anything. I'm not gonna say it's bad. If anything, it's really useful, okay? However, it makes us step away from drawing from real life a lot, okay? It gives us the option where it's oh, well, I could, sit here and draw this, or I could just take a photo and be done with it and move on. You know what I mean, right? So there is advantage, but there's also a disadvantage. You know what I mean, right? But you could also just take the option to just take the time, sit down, draw something for a little bit, a couple hours, you know, and it's gonna mean that you have to sit in the same spot for a couple hours. You know what I mean? Right? Usually 3 hours, and the time's gonna fly by. That's the thing. The time will fly by when you're sitting there as you're drawing, and you're gonna be like, oh shit, I don't have enough time. Another thing is that the light will move. Okay, right? The light will usually move. What I've learned is the best time to do a plein air or to do a live drawing, right? If you're in an environment where light can change, right, is in the morning. Okay, right? This is more for plein air. Okay, when you have a live model, usually they're usually lit. It's static, right? Well, you're doing plein air, light's gonna move. Okay, so what I recommend to you guys is to when you're doing your plein air, you do the drawing. Obviously, you obviously draw first, right? But you plot the shadows out, right? So that the shadows are static. You can move them later, right? If you want to, but draw out those shadows so that you already have them pre-planned and you know where they're gonna be. Okay, and then from that point on, it's all about color, right? And that's the thing too. Like, you know, if you're drawing in like the afternoon, the light can change a lot. You know what I mean? So that's why in the morning, it's really good. You know, usually like it's weird to say, but foggy days are really good. You know what I mean? Because the light's not gonna change that much, the colors aren't gonna change that much, right? And you're gonna be surprised at how beautiful a painting with cool light can be, right? So it's really, really great. I highly recommend drawing from life. You know what I mean? I myself need to do it more often. You know what I mean? I know you guys could probably do it more, right? And don't look at it as such a like heavy thing, you know what I mean? But look at it as a like, you know, as an opportunity to like, you know what, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna do a little you know, and I'm gonna make it look nice, and you know, maybe people will come and comment, you know, maybe not, maybe it's just like me in the wilderness or whatever, right? But it's a fun experience. It's like you're doing the real thing, you're doing the thing in the environment, and it feels good. Okay, it feels nice, but it will be exhausting. Okay, but it feels like you really did something. Okay, and it makes the spot that much more memorable, right? If it's a place that you go to all the time and you return, you know, it's gonna be like, you know what, I did a little thing right here. You know, maybe I'll do a little thing, a little bit over there. You know what I mean? It's just a couple, you know, like a couple like feet away, a couple. You know what I mean? It's like it creates an environment where you're drawing on the go. You're like, you know, you're like guerrilla drawing. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, taking like photography in the studio versus like taking photography on the spot, you know, or like wilderness, like wildlife photography, where you're like, you know, you're in the spot, you're in the moment, you yourself see it, okay, and you're trying to capture it, right? Scientists did it, you know, like people throughout the ages did it. I think you guys can do it too, right? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Check out my Prince of Patreon if you want to support the channel. Consider becoming a channel member and join that Discord, okay? And with that, all that bullshit, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks a lot.